Now then, we'll be back there with them a little bit later on. Right now, we're going to look at today's biggest headlines. Ashley James is here, Nick Ferrari and Nadine Dorries. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning. A quick reminder that we'd love to hear from you during today's show. Whatever you want to comment on, you can send us a message on WhatsApp by scanning the QR code that's on your screen now, or you can get in touch by using X, Facebook, or the This Morning app. You must be 18 years or over. Right, stories. Our first talking point this morning is, has mental health culture gone too far?
I'm going to start with this one because, stand by, viewers, there's a four-letter word coming out here, right at the heart of it, and that word is work. That word is work. And the relevant government Secretary of State or Minister, Mel Stride, has given an interview to a newspaper, the Daily Telegraph, and he says that he thinks the culture of mental health and protection has gone too far, with the normal anxieties of life, his words, not mine, being labelled as illnesses. Won't blitz your viewers with too many numbers. Why is this important? Well, there were about 2.4 million people who were signed off as unable to work. The number grew by 700,000 since the pandemic. All Mr Stride is seeking to do is to try and get 150,000 of whom who have mild illnesses to try and encourage them to get back to work. He's not dragging people who have physical disabilities or mental... He's trying to find those... And I think he's absolutely right. I'm very lucky. Nearly all my life I've been in work. Most of my life I've done work I've liked. Not always, but I won't name those companies. And I found it positively beneficial. I appreciate there will be people watching who have real concerns, but at the heart of what he's achieving, it makes total sense.
OK.
Nadine?
So I was Mental Health Minister for 2 years, so I was actually steeped in this for a very long time. And there's a campaign which has been going for a very long time, which is called Parity of Esteem. And that is where we treat mental health illness exactly the same way as we treat physical illness. And there is, of course, always going to be a knock-on effect and a consequence to this, and that is that those numbers of people who were out of work, who were signed off work for minor mental illness, those numbers were going to increase, and so was always the bill to the government. £100 billion is a huge amount of money. And you know, I'm afraid I'm with Nick on this. We have to be incredibly sympathetic.
Don't be afraid about it's not that bad.
I always am. So, you know, you've got to be incredibly sensitive around this subject.
Sure.
There are people whose lives are absolutely impacted by mental health. We also have to be very aware of the environment we live in today. We have record number of young women. I think the number increased by 25% over a year, suffering from serious eating disorders. And that's a mental health issue which it's the most dangerous of all. It has a 1 in 4 mortality rate. So we have to be very careful about which. Some people would describe that as a minor mental health issue, an eating disorder, despite the fact that 1 in 4 young women diagnosed with it die. So we do have to be very careful about what it is that we're talking about when we're talking about minor mental health illness. But the fact is, a government cannot sustain a £100 billion welfare bill for mental illness. It just can't be sustained because the money will come from somewhere else.
Ashley, I can see you itching to jump in.
I've never known a
Well, unsurprisingly, I'm afraid I do not agree with Nick. And I think this government is doing what it does best, and it's punching down. It's blaming its own incompetence on the most vulnerable in society. Can I talk?
Go ahead.
So, Mind charity, who do so much to destigmatise and support those suffering with mental health, said that people in the poorest fifth of the population are twice as likely to suffer with mental health problems, and people facing exceptionally difficult circumstances. Their research found that most people with mental health issues want to work. So wouldn't it be good to tailor support from experts to reduce NHS waiting times, I don't know, by maybe paying doctors and nurses so they can attract and retrain staff.
I've got to come in on that. I've got to come in on that a second,
absolutely.
To that point.
We need access. Can I just say, just before you jump in...
Who wants a tea?
There are currently 1.9 million people on the waiting list for NHS mental health, so we really do need to help people get back to work. We don't help people get back to work by saying, toughen up, get back to work, you're being work shy, and they keep going on about these economically inactive people. And actually, we know a lot of those people who want to work are leaving because of the astronomical childcare costs. And personally, I think if we want to look at wasting money and scroungers, the government should look a lot closer to home. Like, even today, it's come out, Minister for Common Sense, Esther McVey, and her Tory MP husband using taxpayer money to fund rent on a second home, even though they have a London property. You know, there are so many examples of wasted money.
It's so many can I just bring it back to, not to politics, but to mental health? And can I just bring it back to £3.2 billion when I was mental health minister was given to mental health by Boris Johnson. It was the same budget. It was actually a bigger budget than the entire prisons estate in the UK. So we spend more on mental health than we do on all of our prisoners and all of our prisons. And one of the problems is when you say pay more doctors and nurses, it's a very specialised field that actually people aren't clamouring to work in. And so money was invested into workforce to attract people into work in mental health. We threw money at giving various incentives to get people to move from general nursing into mental health nursing, from specialising in other areas to come and specialise in mental health. The take-up was not huge because it is a very difficult area to work in. And so the NHS is trying every day to get doctors and nurses to come in to mental health. The money is there. The £3.2 billion is there. It's not easy to say. You know, it is easy to say, just get more doctors and nurses. It's not actually easy when it comes down to the practicalities of achieving that.